Hi, everybody. I am Sue Hillyard, and I'm here with Rav Chahal. Hey, Rav.
Hi, Sue.
And we are continuing our series, Astro Coffee, our up close and personal interviews with your favorite astrologers. And today, our favorite astrologer is Kim Marie. Welcome, Kim Marie.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
So we have Kim Marie has been generous in allowing us to look at her chart. And I always, at the beginning, mention one little thing that I have in common with our subject. And I think the one thing that I noticed about your chart is that our ascendants are exactly opposite. So mine's 21 Cancer and yours is 21 Capricorn. So let's start off with our the question that we usually start off with, and that's how would you tell us about how you got to astrology and maybe kind of pointing out where it shows in your chart?
Sure. As you can see, I have a stellium in Scorpio, midheaven, north node, moon. Back in the early 80s, when Pluto was leaving Libra and just going across my stellium, I had an early marriage and an early divorce. And okay, listen to both statements, okay? I tell this story more than once. Married the boy next door, same church, family members work together, da da da. Well, it was a traumatic divorce. My ex left me for my best friend. And that's how I found astrology. And I tell everybody, best thing that ever happened to me, I hope he is as happy as I am today. But what happened is when that shock came across, Pluto over my stellium in Scorpio, I started searching. Up to that point, I left the church that I was going to and raised in, married in. I went through all the psychology books, and the joke I tell is that I was in a bookstore and I found an astrology book on sun signs, and I just picked it up, read the positive and negative traits of sun signs. When I read the negative traits of my sun sign, light bulbs went off. Didn't look back. Fast forward 2 years, mid 80s, I have been studying astrology, collecting books, and I decided I was going to take myself to an astrology conference. And lo and behold, a pamphlet showed up in the mail, and I went to an astrology conference in Vancouver, British Columbia. And the first thing I do is go to the bookstore. I didn't know a soul. Go to the bookstore, and there are astrologers doing readings. And there was this guy who not only was doing readings, but lecturing on the planet Pluto. And he had one session left for a reading. So boom, I got it. Guess who the astrologer was? Jeffrey Wolf Green. My very first session was with him.
Wow.
After I had that reading, I could not go back to the conference the rest of that day. I went to a park and sat in the swings and just swung back and forth in nature. Had my first out-of-body experience that night when I went to bed. So it was just that mind-blowing for me. And, I never looked back in studying evolutionary astrology from there on out. I mean, aging myself, you see my chart. I'm early Pluto Virgo, so I was born in the late 50s. I used to get typed transcripts from a woman I knew who would go to Jeffrey's classes at Astrology at all. And then they got to the point that they started selling cassette tapes. And so transcripts copied from, copy machines with a typewriter, cassette tapes, I just inhaled it. And I never encountered Jeffrey again for 12 more years when I had my second reading. So that's kind of my background in finding astrology. I was just blown away and blessed enough to be introduced to Jeffrey back in the early days.
That's awesome. And you're I mean, the one thing I was also, the other thing I was going to mention when we started was your packed ninth house. I mean, that good grief. And so Pluto, so this happened as Pluto was what, going over your Mercury and Neptune, or
Transiting Pluto going over Sun, Mercury, and then the following year was Neptune. And then
wow.
I met Jeffrey in 85, and so Pluto was probably, maybe 3, 4 degrees by then, but still obviously right in there with that stellium.
Yeah, and you were already aware of the work, so
Yes,
that's amazing.
yes. Pluto was traveling about 2.5 degrees when I went to the conference in Vancouver,
Oh, look at that.
June of 85.
So
Yep.
right on your Neptune.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So, yeah, I just inhaled, evolutionary astrology. I remember where I was when Pluto Volume 1 arrived in the mail. And then, again, it was 12 years later when Jeffrey and Noel Till, 97, 99, 2000, did 3 conferences together in Denver. And that was within driving distance for me. And that's when Jeffrey was really just getting his school going. And I was one of the people who said, well, did anybody transcribe your first Arizona school? Can you sell, the transcript of that? And so that's right when the transcript to his first school came out as well with
nice.
that. And so a point was, when I went to the first conference in 97, that's when I had another reading with Jeffrey, just as mind-blowing. But I had my Pluto 1 book, and I had to show him my well-used book, and give my autograph.
Nice.
Boy, memory lane.
Really.
So
And
Kim,
now you're teaching it.
yeah,
I ran Jeffrey's school from 2002 to 2008. So yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
I
And
just had a quick question. When you
Yes.
met Jeffrey, he hadn't published the book yet, right? When you first met him, it was, yeah, right, okay. Because it came out in
Yeah, I
what,
met him in
80s?
85 and the book came out in 87. And I don't
87.
know if I remember where I was when the book arrived, but I don't remember whether it was late 87, probably early 88, most likely.
Okay,
Somebody
yeah.
told me once that Jeffrey received, I don't remember who it was, but he started receiving the paradigm of EA in his dreams in either 1977.
Yes, I believe it was, yeah, late 70s, and it took him around like a full Saturn, like transit 7 years to write it down because it was in Sanskrit. So you know that Shri Yutsavar who came into his dream to give him this paradigm. So he had somebody, I believe this is from what I remember, that he had taken that long to write down the whole book, which is amazing in itself. But yeah, it's amazing
He,
that you met him during that period.
yes, and he wrote the book
Mm.
on a gift from Roy Orbison's wife.
wow.
Oh,
She was a client of his and said, why don't you have your book out? And he goes, well, I don't know, working, family, whatever, the Virgo responses were. And she says, well, here. She wrote him out a check, and then he just wrote.
No excuses now.
No.
wow.
Wow.
Wonder what transit that was for him in his chart.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing to see. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's amazing how when it's like when the student is ready, the teacher appears, huh?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But your ninth house is like you said, it's very emphasized that ninth house Sagittarius teaching. philosophy, sort of kind of going back to natural law. So you can kind of see the resonance with evolutionary astrology as a material that you would eventually go on to teach and guide many others. Um,
Yes.
so how would you say, I know you've described how you came to EA, but how would you say it's, if you had to put it in some words, how would you say it's helped you in your life, in your own personal life?
Oh gosh. I always like to say that many times the soul will come in and they'll go through like a Reader's Digest version of their evolutionary states of consciousness. Because I was raised, in a very consensus farming household. I was a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. And when I went through the shock of my freedom, and found astrology, it was just light bulbs going off. Now, Jeffrey would always teach that evolutionary astrology is a knowledge-based system, and it is. It's observe, correlate. You don't need a person, you don't need a building, and you don't need the book. You can observe it, back and forth for yourself. But so many people who come to EA, and myself included, look at EA as the best spiritual guidance system we can have for ourselves. And so as a teacher of astrology, I've always said, the phrase "a journey to the core of your soul." And so again, I still clarify this is knowledge based, but this is the best tool we have to help us get back to natural spiritual laws and principles. When I was young, I resisted, the fact that I grew up on a farm, the oldest of 3 girls in the middle of nowhere. I was a readaholic, ninth house. But then when I started finding evolutionary astrology, I was just so grateful that I grew up, in a rural, in nature. I grew up in nature. I've never lived in a big city. I've never lived in a huge cement block building. I live on an acre and a half in the mountains now, and so I've always stayed with that. But wandering answer to your question, Rob, is that it's the best guidance system that I have. And I was blessed enough to marry a husband who for the last 20-some years has been my IT guy in helping me as a teaching astrologer. And so it's so beautiful to be in a relationship where we both speak the same language. And whatever's going on day to day, week to week in our world, where's the moon? We do new moon, full moon podcasts together. So we're always, talking about the transits in the sky as they're happening. And, oh, well, that's why that's doing that. And that's why your sister said this. And that's why, so as many astrologers, it is just day to day existence. And it always is there to help me understand and just feel inner peace through the frustrations of being a 2-degree Pluto Virgo.
In the 8th house.
In the 8th house, yes. In the 8th house.
There's your that's your another emphasis of Scorpio. Very
Yes.
Scorpion chart, as you mentioned earlier as well. Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
sort of like it's showing you where the power is and where there isn't power.
Right.
Coming, like you mentioned, the consensus family system.
Yes.
Like you said, square peg trying to get into a round hole.
Yeah.
It kind of brings you back to yourself, and it kind of though you needed that jolt to awaken you from the consensus world, it kind of also gives you that. And you mentioned it. It's like a magic insight. I want to use the word magic because it links
Oh, I
to
like that one.
reality. Yeah, it's reassuring. It has been for me since I came across EA in terms of this makes sense. Okay, that makes sense to me. It may not make sense to others, but as long as you can kind of validate the experience, it's observation and correlation, as you mentioned. It's very much that art of there's a reason behind the emotion, the feeling, the experience. And even in my own personal life, it's given me that, okay, I I will move through this, whether it's good or bad. We'll move through it and we'll purge through it, especially when it comes to a Pluto transit. But that insight that evolutionary astrology in particular presents, like you said, it's spiritual guidance. I like that. I haven't heard it like that. I think that that's just the nail on the head for this particular paradigm of astrology, that spiritual guidance it provides.
Sure. Yeah. I might mention that periodically throughout my life, I've had past life dreams, you know, and so astrology is a tool to look into those types of archetypes and help you understand them. And back in the late 2000s, as they say, I came across Roger Woolger's work, Deep Memory Processing with Patricia Walsh. And so I was one of the last people who trained under Roger Walsh, or Roger Woolger, sorry, W's. And then I have worked with Patricia in various trainings. And it's been such a beautiful, for me personally, it's been such a beautiful marriage of EA and DMP, you know, to have the language and then have the experiential as well, to really also, you know, just help you return to your own natural self as a soul. And so I've always, you know, had a deep interest in past lives as well. And when I work with clients, I always ask, a lot of astral students you just kind of know, but many times with clients, I will ask the question, are you comfortable with reincarnation? And then I just see what they say and I let them kind of follow through. And sometimes they'll talk about, you know, a dream that they had or something like that. And so I ask permission to say, well, as we are looking at your chart, do you mind if I, you know, share with you any intuitive hits that come across for me? And I'm careful to say, again, I'm just an opinion and I like to work with patterns. And so I'm going to be more interested in sharing this as a pattern for you, and you can see if that resonates. And so that's been a very joyful part of being a counseling astrologer for me, is to just have those experiences of sharing back and forth with clients on those levels. And I do the DMP work. You know, I live in the northern plains of the United States. So again, grew up in a rural area, but then I migrated to the area called the Black Hills of South Dakota. And it's a little mountain range that's about an hour wide and 2 hours long, if you could, as the crow flies. But it's very steeped in Native American history. And so, I'm wandering now. I got too many thoughts I want to say.
I hear you, sister.
So living in the small area where I do, I don't, you know, attract a plethora of clients because DMP is so hands-on work. But they just come in on a regular basis, or they come in, you know, through astrology and then want DMP work. And so I kind of am many times going back and forth with both of them. And even that deepens your ability to see archetypes in a chart when you do a past life regression with someone, and then, oh, there it is, living in the chart.
Yes.
So,
and that's how we met, was with
DMP?
DMP. How you and I met was with
Okay.
DMP. And
Okay.
the what I am amazed at is that when you do the sessions, the archetypes are all there. I mean, the story, and even the transits that kind of kick up or, bring out that story are just amazing.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. And I am interested in past lives. And before I came into EA, I'm a very big fan of Dr. Brian Wise, his work in terms of the material that he produced and his books. And I remember before EA came into my life, I was looking at past life astrology. So for me, being able to look at Pluto and then the south node of the moon and the north node of the moon, and then the planetary nodes as well in terms of south node of Pluto, that kind of re-linking to where we've come from, to where we are now, to where we're potentially going in the future, just resonated and made more sense. And it's sort of like it gives you that validation of the experiences you've had and the feelings you've had. And also when you talk about dreams, yes, I'm pretty sure many people on this planet have had past life dreams. They just may not know that it's a past life dream because they
Right.
haven't got the language to explain what the dream's taken place, or they don't know what transits are happening in their birth chart to do linking to Neptune, maybe the 12th house or the dream world. But yeah, no, the deep memory process, I've read Patricia's books. It's such a fascinating tool to incorporate with evolutionary astrology if somebody wanted to do that.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely. So let's see. I guess where would we like to go from
I have
here?
a question just regarding Pluto, transit Pluto, because Kim,
Okay.
it's gone over your ascendant being 21 degrees Capricorn. So moving through your first house, just for the audience, if you can just tell us what that transit's been doing in the first
Sure.
house for you.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. So Pluto spent about I think 10, 11 years in my 12th house. It was a shorter transit. And as I got to the last, 5 degrees heading towards the descendant, I really was looking at issues of mortality. I was like, oh, first of all, the most extreme, am I going to die? And I'm like, calm down, Kim. And so I just really started looking at it and addressing it and making peace with, okay, if this is my time to go, I go. And I did a lot of surrendering during that time period. And when I ran Jeffrey's school from 2002 to 2008, it was just dropped in my lap. And all of a sudden, I was on the national stage with astrology and organizing conferences and, upgrading his school and creating a binder and all that kind of stuff. And then when I passed it back to his daughter, Deva, that's right when Pluto went into my 12th house. And then all of a sudden, I ran into the underworld of astrology as well. And I remember thinking, okay, I should be out there. And I was like, no, I should be out there. And as it went through my 12th house in that decade, I realized that everybody was still coming to me as an astrologer. I didn't lack for clients. I didn't lack for teaching astrology. So that part just kind of moved along real smooth for me. And so then as it got closer, it passed over my ascendant in 2019. That year, and it's Capricorn, okay, parents, career. That year specifically in 2019, my mother had open heart surgery. She had a triple bypass. She made it through. My early Alzheimer's dad said, we got to move closer to you. And so I should back up. Oldest of three girls. My middle sister and I live in the Black Hills together. Baby sister lived across the state with my mom and dad. He kept telling sister, husband, mom, we got to move to Rapid City so that the girls can take care of us, mom. And he kept saying it with his Alzheimer's. And we at first didn't give it any, credence. And then all of a sudden it was like mom had her surgery in March. I spent 6 weeks helping my mother because we didn't send her to a nursing home. I took care of my mom and my dad at their home because my two sisters punched time clocks. In July, we moved them. I packed my mom and dad's entire house. I unpacked her entire house, but we moved him out here. And so that year that Pluto went over my ascendant, all of a sudden, I had my mom and dad that I hadn't lived with for over, or close to, for over 3 decades, and my younger sister. All of a sudden, everybody was here.
Wow.
Next year, 2020, in July of that year, my youngest sister, 10-year-old niece, we'd moved them out here. They decided to do an upstairs, downstairs in one house that first year. My sister's husband in his late 40s had a stroke, complications of a car accident that went undiagnosed, and we lost him July 2020.
Wow.
November of 2020, my dad fell down a flight of stairs and we lost him. So moved my parents. And so it wasn't me, but I did experience the whole death situation. As Pluto has been moving through this first house, the irony is the sweetest thing in the world is I can see my mom every day. Tomorrow's her birthday, and my husband and I are taking her on an 1880 steam engine train ride.
Sweet.
Pluto going through my first house, all of a sudden I've been coming out from the underground in the world of astrology. You know, asked to do this workshop online, asked to show up, you know, at this conference. And so I haven't done anything differently, but it's just been slowly starting to come out. So I had spoke listeners pre-call. I use solar arcs as much as transits and progressions. Solar sun arc movement. Solar arcs are a degree for a year. Every planet moves 1 degree forward each year. Your chart configuration stays the same, just slides around the circle. We had talked about the fact that I have solar arc moon at 1 degree Aquarius, right, with transiting Pluto squaring my stellium as well. And my husband and I are going through caretaking with his 91-year-old mother in hospice. So I still have some of that family stuff going on, even with Pluto in early Aquarius. You know, I have been pondering this too, Rav, and I'm just like, okay, knock on wood, glass, cement, everything there is. So far, this Pluto in Aquarius transit squaring my stellium, have I had some upsets? Yeah, but I haven't had anything, you know, tremendous. I think probably the biggest thing will be my mother-in-law in hospice passing. It has made me, though, want to spend time, literally time, with my mother for the same reason, you know, still thinking of that whole mortality issue, which is also a Scorpio issue. So, yeah, it's the little bit of the career expansion, as you can see from the longer transit, but still the whole familial thing that's going on as well with me.
And
So
it sounds to me like you're working with it rather than butting up against it.
yes. So Aquarius, I've created 4 words for Aquarius. You know, evolutionary astrologers is going to know this, but I say detach, objectify, liberate, innovate.
Mm.
So whatever happens, because you know, Aquarius is one of the archetypes of trauma, the whole purpose of trauma. And oh, by the way, if I can, well, 2 thoughts. Let me stay with the thought. You know, so when that event happens, it, you know, that shocks us. That's naturally detachment. We step away from it. Now, how can we look at it in the biggest picture as possible? If this wasn't happening to you and this was happening over here, what would you say to that person? And then how are you trying to break free? How are you trying to change, to liberate? And then innovate. That's the future-orientated messages that we get from Aquarius that you pay attention to as they pop into your head, because it's your own soul saying, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. So those are the, but anyway, the sidetrack was, oh, bless Linda Johnson for creating all of this. But I did a EA Zoom webinar for Linda a little ways before she passed, and it's still in your archives on YouTube. It's called The Opportunity to Heal with Trauma. The Opportunity to Heal with Trauma. And so I really go through Uranus and the brain and spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, how things condense from energy to matter and how we heal from energy to matter. So if any of your listeners are interested in that, that's a nice little webinar if you want to go back and refer to it.
I will put a link to it in the description of the video.
Sure.
For that purpose.
Sure.
But yeah, and Kimmery, you have done so many videos for EA Zoom meetings. It's amazing. And I mean, I'm always amazed at the input that you have for us and the effort that you make to make it very informational. And I always learn something, and I know that, you know, that our viewers do, and it's just awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you've participated in many of our panels, and I believe I just saw that you're doing the EA conference. You're going to do a talk on the coming election, which has kind of evolved as one of your specialties. So you want to talk about that?
EA.
Talk a little bit about that and any other specialties that you have in your practice.
Sure. So we were literally doing an EA Zoom panel the moment that in July, when Joe Biden said he's leaving and endorsing Kamala.
Right.
You know, so I quickly had to put Kamala's chart in my slides because I'm like you, Sue. I've always got to have the slides. Teacher here.
Just in case.
And so, yeah. Yeah. And so the Jeffrey Wolf Green Association of Evolutionary Astrologers. Okay. So that's a lot to Google. You guys correct me, but is their website jwgaea.com?
.org.
.org.
.org. Okay.
And I'll put a link to that in there too, and to your
Okay,
talk.
good. Okay. You'll have that link. And so they're doing a conference October 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. And I think I speak the evening of the 5th on Pluto and the last degree, or as I like to say, the last 1/3 of the last degree of Capricorn. And then, of course, the USA presidential election. And again, you can go to jwgaea.org. So that leads into an area that I've always loved. I just love forecasting. Now, I say to clients, most astrologers dislike the word prediction. It just is a little too fatalistic, okay? We prefer to forecast. In other words, we say, here's the timing, here's the themes, but how it turns out is your free will, free choice. And so with forecasting, I never draw up a chart without doing transits, progressions, major secondary progressions, day for a year, and solar arcs. I always have them in every single session that I ever do. So forecasting has always been one of my specialties. Obviously, teaching evolutionary astrology as long as I have 700 hours of teaching audio and video on our website. I counted it up once.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I can teach the archetypes of EA. I used to say I could almost be a clone of Jeffrey Green because I my principles in EA just don't vary much from what Jeffrey's original teachings were. But I love forecasting. And so I think I don't know if I said it live on the broadcast, but if I may, my website is evolutionaryastrology.net. And my husband, Media Monk, I'm Star Lady, We do a new moon, full moon podcast for the public twice a month. And so I'm just always, working with the current transits, etc. So forecasting is my love with EA. Having said that, I just want to point out, and I'm just like, where is the astrology world? Why aren't we talking about this? I'm calling this the Great Ingress Decade. Pluto in Aquarius, 23, 24 for the next 20 years. All right. Neptune in Aries, 25 for the next 14 years. Uranus in Gemini, 26 for 7 years, followed with Chiron in Taurus, 26 for 7 years. So I kind of been moving Chiron in with planets, okay? They kicked Pluto out while I'm inviting Chiron in. And so I'm saying we have, these 4 outer planets all changing signs this decade. It's like, whoa, you think we're going to just sit on our couches and smoothly go through everything? Nope. So how can we be working with these archetypes? So I got asked to speak for South Dakota, North Dakota, Alberta, Saskatchewan, okay. I got asked to speak to Winnipeg Astrological Association, and so I did a webinar. It's on our website on the Great Ingress Decade, and so it's a 6-hour. I took each of them and just kind of highlighted different areas that I think will be accented by these outer planets. Of course, Pluto, AI, and one of the things I've been saying about Aquarius, the theme for the Aquarian age is unity and diversity. But the distortions of Aquarius is elitism. My country, my group is better than yours, and it creates that division, the air duality of us versus them. So we've got some work to do to get to that unity and diversity. But Neptune's going to explode a new 165-year cycle of religious and spiritual evolution on the planet. We'll see both. I've said just between those two, I think we're going to have a metaphysical renaissance. Aquarius, the traditional ruler of astrology. Neptune in Pisces just showing us all the disillusionment with human-made religions that have distorted us from natural law. Neptune in Aries might create some wars, but it's also going to just burst forth broader collective consciousness, understanding. We've got to find ways to get along in this little sandbox. So anyway, I could go on, but
that's awesome. I mean, and it's very true. We've got so much change, so many, ingresses, as you say, occurring in this decade that it can't help but be, wow, amazing.
Well, Uranus in Taurus, I've been saying it's one big climate event. Uranus in Taurus, one big climate event.
Yes.
Uranus in Taurus is when the mass consciousness recognized that climate change is real. And so Uranus in Gemini, I think, will be innovative enough. Uranus is going to make 5 waxing trines to Pluto, 26, 27, 28. So the world of, technology is going to just continue to explode faster than we can make sense of it, both the distortions of it, AI misinformation, but also the innovations of it with where, some of the diagnostics of AI can be so beneficial for us. I'm a fan of UBI, Universal Basic Income, because as we have went through the Industrial Revolution, now this Neptune-Uranus cycle from 1993, 172-year cycle, this is the Information Revolution. And so as more and more of the you know, house paying jobs are taken over by, you know, AI and robotics and mechanics, we have more free time, but we also have less jobs available for the collective. And so we as humanity in some way, that's my hope, that we come together to say, okay, here's how we basically support everybody. You know, Pluto and Aquarius, what are we going to do when the first aliens show up? You know, the world got smaller.
Go with them.
You know, so I think that, you know, we have a lot that we can look forward to with the Uranus Pluto waxing trines. And then Chiron in Taurus, it'll spend about 7 years there. You know, that's going to continue on this whole climate thing. And how do we, Chiron, how do we heal and save the planet? You know, so I'm on my soapbox, sorry.
Well, good for you, because you can see I switched to the current transits because as we were talking about a little bit before we started recording, so in one of our last Astro Speaks, Michaela asked me to put Maki Maki, which is it's a minor planet. I think it's in the, you know, in the same category as
Pluto? Is it one of the dwarf planets or is it one of the
yeah, I think it's
Kuiper?
I think it's a dwarf. I think it's considered a dwarf planet. And she is, what did I say? She was the Easter Island creation goddess. And she talks about the environment and preserving the environment. And so what I noticed was that here she is in Libra and right on the degree of the coming solar eclipse.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes.
And in addition to that, we have this huge hurricane, Helene, that is barreling down on the United States. And I read an article saying that it may be the hurricane that is associated with this year's hurricane season. And here there's an asteroid, Helena, right here, right next to her.
Mhm.
And here's the sun.
Mhm.
Shining light on her. And then Mercury right behind. My hope is that with these, I mean, you know, my thought about asteroids is that they just kind of flesh out a story. They just add more nuance to a story that's already wanting to be told. I'm learning, and you know, the more I learn, the more I want to learn, and going down rabbit holes, and you know, yeah. Anyway, my hope is that this wakes people up, that it opens their eyes, that it shows them, because what I mean, I've it hasn't hit yet. It's still it just became a hurricane, I think early this morning. They just but the thing is, it's forming very quickly because it's going over really hot
Right.
ocean.
Right.
And each hurricane that we've had seems to form quicker each time and more violently. So this is going to be interesting. I really hope that it makes people aware. And you know, like you said, I think it's part of the bigger picture of what you were just talking about, Kim Marie.
Right, right. Well, they're saying this Hurricane Helene, they're now saying it's going to hit as a category 3 or 4.
Oh wow.
And right now it's looking at it like it's at the panhandle. So
Right.
we'll see how that goes. You know, pointing something out here about Uranus and Pluto, in between the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, they are literally come within 2.5 degrees of their waxing trines. So this is 2024. They're not exact till 26, 27, 28. But here we are right now. I think they get to 238, so 2.5 degrees within each other of those waxing trines. So they're already starting to build. And, you know, here they are doing it in these latter degrees of earth signs. So just on that subject, it can be the recognition, you know, waxing trines, that recognition of the physicality of Earth, you know, and how we are having such an intensity of storms that are going on.
Yeah, and also how we're using the resources. And this is why, in a way,
Yes.
Mother
Yeah.
Nature is responding.
Yes.
You know, it's
Oh,
that shake-up we need.
And
well,
we
you know,
have
that'll
Neptune in between the two of them. You know.
yes. Well, the lunar eclipse was a kite formation.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then we have what is it? No, we have a water trine on the solar eclipse. Venus, Mars, Saturn. And so, you know, there's the water intensity that can be part of this whole thing coming along with Helene.
Yeah. And Mercury has moved into the kite too. As of now. And here we are talking about it.
Yeah, here we are.
So, okay, so that was a little preview of what the transits are. And the other thing is in addition to those asteroids, we have Rav and Jordan and I have all been kind of looking at certain asteroids, and the one that I really I identify with, I guess is the best way I can say it, is Atlantis. For me, it's at the very bottom of my chart, right by my eye, between my IC, my south node and my Mercury, which rules my south node. I think I was there.
I was about to say, so is that home?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've always been curious about it and wanted to know more about it. So that I noticed that one in charts. So here comes Atlantis coming up to this configuration as well. And then the other one that Rav introduced me to was Medusa, which is another asteroid that is associated. What were we talking about before we started recording?
I'm trying to recall the conference from last year, that a brilliant conference that Demeter George did to do with Medusa. And it was the mythical story we got told about Medusa, how it got distorted, right? Because she had this power, and then I believe she was attacked, and then she was presented as this snake, kind of, you know, the hair being all the snake type, and like a bit like more like a vicious woman, which she's not. It's the complete opposite. It's the power that Medusa had. I'll have to relook at the actual myth, but I remember being pulled into it because it sits on my North Node. And I believe we had the joke in terms of my hair being very curly, very curly. It's up right now.
Yeah, you've got it tied up today.
I have got it tied up, and I have to look into it deeper because I'm sure there's a message in it for me. My mind just got blank with Medusa at the minute, but I've been looking at, as you know, the asteroid Magdalene, representing Mary Magdalene, and for myself, it sits right on my Mars in Cancer at 16 degrees. And we had a look at Kim Marie's, and Kim's is at 25 degrees Virgo, right? That was correct. Yeah, I wrote that down. So yeah, because we were just talking before we started recording about the rabbit holes we're diving into at the minute. But so just moving on from that then, Sue, I just want to ask him a question regarding something away from astrology, but to do with books. Any kind of books that you've read over time that's really influenced you, inspired you in your life. It'd be nice if you could share that with the audience and, see what else we could learn.
Yeah. I got them right around the corner, so I might step away from the camera just a little bit, but simultaneous along with my interest in evolutionary astrology, I just got so curious about the history of the female archetype in religion. I grew up Christianity, and Mary Meg had two choices. She was a virgin, or women, excuse me, had two choices: virgin or whore in the Bible. And so I got very interested in that. So I spent a lot of time reading books on Mary Magdalene, both from the research point of view and from a metaphysical point of view. So if you will give me just a moment, I'm going to get some books right here as I get my chair around, and I'll show you some of my faves, okay? And so again, I'm going to just get outside the camera a moment, all right? And I'll share with you, and hopefully you can still hear me talking.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so again, I'm just gonna pick out a few of my favorite ones, but no, not that one. And so, and of course, Jeffrey had always liked The Woman with the Alabaster Jar. Anybody remember that one? Working with that one. Oh, here's another one that I'll bring out just because I think that this is relevant for our conversation. So there's another one that I was looking for, but I think I may have, I have a larger collection downstairs. And so, yeah, some of them went downstairs. Research, Mary Magdalene, Lynn Picknett. Picknett. This is the best that they could put together the physical research of did Mary Meg leave and go to France afterwards. This is a metaphysical one that I just found so beautiful. The Lineage of the Codes of Light, Jessie Avani, and it's Avanni. This was one I just thoroughly enjoyed. And again, it's more on that metaphysical side of things. There are a few others, but they're just not. I have upstairs, downstairs collections. So the one that I was looking for, The Woman with the Alabaster Jar. I'm not remembering that author. What is the other one that was recommended by Jeffrey? The sword or the plowshare. It'll come to me. I'll text it to Sue, and we'll put it in the notes and the write-up. It's a famous classic one about the feminine in archaeology, and how archaeology always was written from a man's point of view, and the big Venus figurines and everything. I'm not remembering that one. But I just ran across this one. And so Jeffrey had recommended this book to me so long ago, The Jesus Mystery by Janet Bock. It might be very hard to get, but where did Jesus go between 12 and 30?
Janet Bock, did you say?
Bock, B-O-C-K, Janet Bock. And so basically this book, and it's more research based, okay? So he went to Egypt, he went to India, and this book is the research that they actually found that he was in India during that time period. And so to me, it goes along with the whole female in Bible searching with that. I mean, nowadays, I think there's so much that could be just Googled on Mary Magdalene, and you probably get a plethora of books that are out there. Oh gosh. Riane Eisler, Raine Eisler. Riane Eisler. Her most famous book. It's had a Saturn cycle already. Again, this was the one that was just proving in Eastern Europe through archaeology, way before religion, how the first, worshiping of an entity in Eastern Europe, most of Europe, was the female figurines, the Venus, the figurines that we see with the big bellies. That one is an excellent, excellent book from a research point of view, but she also gives some of her, opinions about the, uprising of patriarchy as it had to squish the matriarchy. So,
You've been
yeah,
researching her for a long time.
Oh gosh, I started reading about Mary Mag as soon as I found evolutionary astrology. I don't remember exactly when, but I know that I had asked Jeffrey, well, what about the truth of women in religion? And that's when he turned me on to Riane Eisler and her books.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I remember, we also looked at, we didn't show it, but in your also in your chart, the asteroid Karma is opposite that Mary Magdalene. It's in
Oh, really?
it's in Pisces at yeah, and the
I'll make a note of that. Yeah, you're right,
Yeah.
Rob. We just keep learning, don't we?
We do, we do. And even that Neptune transit would have opposed your natal Mary Magdalene at 25 over the last
yeah,
couple
that
of years.
here I'll share it just because we're talking about it.
It is fascinating because I do feel the whole divine feminine, and it's just divine feminine for men and women. Feel like it's reawakening. We're
Yes.
kind of connecting back to that natural essence, or trying to connect back to that natural essence.
Oh, there it is. I see it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
here's Karma right here.
Yeah, 27.
And the right, so it fits right in here between the that.
Also, the lunar eclipse for Kim.
Yeah,
That
Oh,
25 degrees
yes.
sun.
yeah, that's what
Yes.
this is the lunar eclipse right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was
Oh,
right on
wow.
your Magdalene asteroid.
And yeah, and Magdalene, what'd you say it was? What'd we say it was? 25, I think. And oh, look, there's
25, yeah.
and there's Atlantis right there.
Yeah.
Popping up again. Transiting Atlantis was right there. Well, actually, it would be down here. Well, your ninth house is so packed that I can't.
Moved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't get Virgo's in there too, but it's it's like it would be over here at the but really in the middle of your and you have intercepted Virgo in the ninth house. Is that part of the
Virgo,
whole
Pisces.
setup? You know it well, or
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. When you look at, I've been having Neptune. Well, I'm so used to having the slide, the arrow thing pointing, but, so I didn't speak to this one, but, for the last 24 years, I have two Jupiter cycles. I've been involved in work called energetic balancing. And it's where we take your photograph and we beam via computer 500,000 healing frequencies 24/7. And so I have been a facilitator for this work for 2 decades. I used to travel to the US and Canada giving public talks on it, training people about it. Well, then conference calls and webinars came along, so I didn't have to do that. And so, I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. And that opportunity to heal webinar I did on EA Zoom, I have a slide in there about it if anybody wants to go connect to it. But it's really interesting. It's very quantum physics work, you know, and it comes from the concept before something can manifest physically, it has to be there energetically. Well, let's cut to the chase and just go see if we can work to heal it energetically. And so I got to share this tidbit. So for those of you who don't know Jeffrey Green's chart, he has Sun conjunct the South Node in Sagittarius. What does he do? Brings through this spiritual paradigm via astrology. This gentleman that I work for the organization yet, the creator of it is in spirit form again. He had Sun conjunct the South Node in Gemini and brings through this computerized technology for self-healing that's phenomenal. So point is, I have Pisces intercepted in the second house, and the second house, food, clothing, survival. It's the talents that we develop in order to physically be here on the planet. It is one of the workhouses. So here I am, Pisces intercepted, and I have two spiritual, metaphysical occupations that I have done for decades. There's the example of Pisces in the second.
That's
Karma
awesome.
yoga, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
what Rob's talk is going to be about in the conference is karma yoga.
Conference, yeah. Karma yoga.
Yeah.
So let's see. Was there anything else about this chart that we wanted to talk about? There's so many things. I mean, we could talk for a
We'd
couple
be here
more
for hours.
hours.
Yes.
I mean, I had all.
You're overwhelming me, Sue.
I'm overwhelming myself.
So Gemini
Reading my
moon coming
life.
out.
The story. Okay, I did want to make one more. Okay. Two more maybe. Okay, so one of them is about Cassandra. And let's see, I forget. Oh, you that was part of your stellium that make sure that in addition to all of the planets in your ninth house, you've got, you know, all of these asteroids at,
4 degrees.
nestled in between your right next to your Neptune and, you know, between it and your North Node. But Cassandra is about finding your voice, about not being believed in one instance, and about finding your voice and talking about it. And here you have it on your ascendant right now, which I think is very cool. It's and in addition to that, this other asteroid here is called America. And America is at 29 degrees Capricorn, right here with Pluto, as we do this, you know, little sojourn back into Capricorn. It had gone into Aquarius and it has been traveling with Pluto. It backed up and now they're together. Well, these are all in your first house, and I know I've listened to your talks about, you know, the United States, and you use a different chart than the Sibley chart for talking about the United States, but you have talked a lot about, you know, where America is going. And I think again, I really look forward to your talk, you know, that you're going to do for the conference. But I find it fascinating that, you know, that these asteroids are configured, you know, so strongly in your chart.
So that America asteroid looks like the Illuminati symbol.
It does. Yeah, it's the little the pyramid with the eye in the middle of it.
Mm.
Yeah, which is on the dollar bill. And
yeah, I was going to say $1 bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at your natal one is right here in between your Jupiter and Mars.
I wonder how I talk about the U.S.
There you go.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess let's see. Was there anything else that we wanted to talk about? Anything else that you want to mention about
So
this, Kim Marie or Rav?
I was going to say, so your favorite question still to come.
Oh yeah, it is.
All
I
we've
was gonna
covered.
I was gonna stop the share, but I thought we would, if
Yeah.
there's anything else in here that you wanted to say about this before we move on to the final question.
I feel like I'm in receiving mode with this
Yeah.
charts.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. That was kind of our intention was a give and take. We want to learn more about other people, and the thing I love to do is to present, little details, my Virgo, little details, and then let somebody else talk about it. So I feel successful. Okay, so my favorite question is, what do you do in your spare time? She laughs.
Yes, yes. So I'll give you one of my nicknames. I've never had any biological children in this lifetime, although I have helped raise my husband's son, and I have helped raise nieces and nephews, and I have a 14-year-old niece and a 12-year-old great niece that I'm very involved in their lives. My nickname is Mama Kim.
Oh, sweet.
Even my mother. I need my mama joke. I need to talk to my mom about this, and we all know that. So I live on a acre and a half, and it's actually foothills, but you'd look at it as a mountain. And my backyard looks over a canyon. My street is cliff. So I'm a gardener.
Sweet.
So every state in the United States has a land grant college. And that college is endorsed with teaching gardening education to the public. So you go through this course and you become a master gardener volunteer. So I've been a master gardener for it's been less than 2 decades, but I mean, I grew up on a farm. I have gardened my whole life. The older I have gotten, I've let the vegetables go. Farmers market, support them. I'm flowers. The native flowers, some of the annuals that grow, really easy. I live in a botanical garden in the midst of pine trees. And so that's my number one thing is I absolutely love gardening. The other thing is my husband and I are avid hikers and campers. So we camp a lot during the summertime. We actually have we got one more weekend this weekend with family, but otherwise now we're kind of home for the rest of the winter from camping. But do I still read? Yeah, I do. I mix it up, fiction, nonfiction. I got to have a break once in a while. But gardening is it. It is just my absolute love. And so the Mama Kim comes in. Sometimes gardeners have to be very, very careful with those little babies, helping them out. And Leroy thinks I'm nuts. And sometimes we have to be ruthless, you know? So I have
Tough
both
love.
sides of Mama Kim that will come out in the garden. So yes, that's my absolute love, and I'm just so grateful to live in the country and to literally live in the mountains. We're a half a mile from our city lake, and so we get the eagles. My totem is blue heron. My neighbor doesn't like the blue herons, but we get to watch it. And then where I live, our backyard, there's a horseshoe, and the canyon goes further than that, but there's a horseshoe, and down at the bottom, there's more housing. But from where we lived going down, it's the equivalent of about 2 city blocks in the horseshoe shaped. They cannot build.
Nice.
And I say that I live on Wildlife Highway. We have mountain lions. My kitties don't stay outside at night, but the mountain lions go through, the deer, the turkey, the fox, you name it. So I live with all of the wildlife. And we were talking about kitties, remember? Kitty
Yeah,
asteroid?
asteroid Kitty right there next to your moon.
Yep. And so, I live in mountain lion territory, and everybody's always catching them on their game cameras outside their houses like they do now. In 40 years in the Black Hills, I've been blessed with seeing them twice, both times up close.
Wow.
Absolutely magnificent, just magnificent creatures. So, nature.
That's all your Sag ninth house.
It is. It totally is. And I'm, always, split and divide with perennials. So I'm always giving away plants, and I'm now in my fall cycle of, taking excess babies and potting them and, giving them away.
Good for you. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Absolutely. You know what? This has been so much fun. I've enjoyed, getting to know you even better and having fun in the meantime.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you both for inviting me. And I've enjoyed it too. And I love learning some of these new little asteroids. I made notes.
Me too.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to your talk in the conference, and we will see you then.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.